Hi, welcome to Threadhead TV. This is Jude Bell. Thanks for joining me for today's project, which is how to make a tulip circle skirt for your little girl that is fully lined. Beautiful. She will love to twirl in this, and it's easy enough to wear that she can play in it. I started with 2 Cherokee t-shirts. The second one I will use for the waistband later on. For my hippie camper van applique how-to, click on the link below or look on my channel for this video. The only difference here is that I use the satin stitch around my applique instead of using a zigzag stitch. Start with ironing your fabric for greatest precision. Always wanting to give credit where credit is due, I got the formula for my circle skirt from a channel called Annika Victoria, and I will put a link below in the description of her circle skirt tutorial. However, I nearly doubled this number of 3.8 that I got and made it a 7 inches because I needed extra skirt in the front to overlap in order to make my tulip. 22 inches in length is the longest that my paper would allow me to make the pattern. And so what I did, you'll see when I cut it out, is added another couple of inches on the fabric. And instead of 2 pieces of fabric to make a normal circle skirt, I'm going to need 3 panels of fabric. And this one is my back panel, and I am cutting it out on the fold. I've also double-checked my measurement on the top of the circle to make sure that it is about half of my daughter's waist measurement, plus 1 inch for seam allowances. The back panel for the lining is cut out in the same exact manner. Next, the back panel pattern is altered in order to make the tulip shape for the front. As you can see, I cut out my lining fabric already before I shaped my tulip. So I'm going to use my lining fabric as my front panel pattern for my outside fabric. My large flower outer fabric is doubled over here, so I'm cutting out 2 panels at the same time with wrong sides facing each other. And the hard parts are over. We are now going to sew up our side seam of our lining and the side seam of the outside fabric. Place right sides together and sew up the side seams. Use a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Press those straight lines that you just sewed and then open them up and press. Now you're ready to put right sides together of the lining and the outer skirt. If you have a very large table, this step would be easier to pin on a table where you can spread it all out and make sure that there's no rumples as you pin. Match the seams together as much as possible at the hem and at the top as you pin. We will be sewing the line all along the front tulip, which is what I'm sewing now, and all along the hem, leaving the top of the skirt open. Now that I've sewn 1 continuous seam, I am ready to take it to the ironing board and press inside out before I turn it right side out to press. Ironing it inside out first will set the stitches of your seam and make for a cleaner press when you turn it right side out. Any convex seam like this will need to be notched before it's turned right side out, making sure not to cut through the stitching line. This will prevent your fabric from bunching up in the seams when you iron it right side out. This is all ironed. I'm going to pin just so that it doesn't slip around, and I'm going to top stitch as close to the edge as I can. So here's my normal stitch. You can see where it's flashing, and I've set it up to 3. Setting it to a longer stitch because it's a top stitch. And there's a little guide right here on my foot. There's a line, and I'm feeding the edge of my fabric to that line, not the center line, but the line where the thread goes through. You can see there's 2 lines there on my foot. That's going to help me get it real straight. I am evening up the top here, and I've also folded my skirt in the way that I want it to look when it's done, making sure that the waist is measuring exactly the length that I want it. Now for the waistband. I cut a 6-inch width piece off the bottom of my second t-shirt. I am also straightening up the sides and removing some length so that it can be snug around my daughter's waist. If you don't have any tearaway stabilizer, you can use a piece of paper as I did here in order to keep your t-shirt material from stretching out of shape. Cut away the seam allowance, being careful not to cut your stitching. I'm going to stay stitch it around the waistband to keep everything in place so that I can just double check that this is going to go over on my daughter's rear end area. I'm going to set it way up high on my dial from down here to way up here, my biggest stitch. Or setting on my machine is this basting stitch. I cut my walking foot on there. Pin unfinished right side of waistband to the right side of the skirt, making sure that you match side seams. To reduce the bulk in the waistband, cut away the extra seam allowance fabric, being careful not to cut the seam you just sewed. Did you know there was such a thing as a double needle? I've had these for years and I've never used them before, so I'm going to try them out today. I'm using the wider of the 2 double needles, and it requires 2 spools of thread. It also requires a special double needle setting on your machine. I have folded my waistband back, and as you can see, the bottom of my t-shirt is serving as my finished edge on the inside of my skirt. And now I'm top stitching with my double needle on the outside. Not bad at all for the first time using a double needle on a garment. And the inside looks pretty well finished too. I hope you are able to make some variation on this tulip skirt. Let me know in the comments below if you do. Thanks for watching. This is Threadhead TV. Come on back for more great projects.